I think we're in a different position now than we were a month ago. And that position is we have a lot of evidence. We don't need to just simply emphasize hypothetical projections. We can combine that empirical data. Instead of ignoring it, we can combine that with our knowledge of fundamental biology. For decades, we've known a lot about viruses, a lot about infections, and for decades, even about this family of viruses. And then we can thoughtfully combine that evidence with the way to restore the country in a safe way. And these are some of the key facts that we've learned. And point number one is that the overwhelming majority of people do not have any significant risk of dying. This is shown all over the world. And in fact, what induced the panic was this overestimation of what's called the fatality rate of the infection by the World Health Organization. But in reality, it's a fraction. So if you take the number of people who are going to die and you divide it by the people who are infected, they got 3 to 5% of people, which is very high. But now we know from data all over the world, including the US, that a massive number of people have the virus that were either asymptomatic. In fact, 50% of people that are infected have zero symptoms. And then another large percentage have nothing really significant that demands any medical care, and certainly not hospitalization. So when you look at the newer data that has come out, the estimates are that the fatality rate is very low, maybe 0.1%. I mean, it's not set, it's not known exactly, but these are estimates. And we also know that when you take the people who are going to die, 2/3 of people this is New York data, 2/3 of people are over 70. 95% of people are over 50. If you're young and healthy, you have essentially near zero chance of dying. And then the last part of who's at risk to die are, when you look at the hotbed in the US, New York City, it's something like 99.2%. Today's data of all those investigated for underlying conditions, 99.2% had some underlying condition. The number one is, if you take away age, the number one underlying condition is obesity and diabetes. Those are the top two. And hypertension, although it's not clear how impactful each one of these is. There's not a lot of good data on these. But other diseases like kidney disease, congestive heart failure, I mean, these are significant underlying conditions. If you're young and otherwise healthy, you have essentially zero risk of dying and a very, very low risk, as the second point, of being hospitalized, because the policies are directed to stop people from dying and to prevent overcrowding. And we know that protecting the at-risk population will prevent hospital overcrowding. I mean, that's really very critical. If you're under 18 in New York, you make up 0.6% of the hospitalizations. And if you're over 60, you make up 2/3. So there's a very significant targeted population here. We need to protect them. That doesn't need total isolation. We know the policy to isolate people and for hand washing and all this, but New York was devastated for specific reasons. They had 350,000 people in the month of January alone come into the US, and the number one port was New York from China citizens. There's a huge difference between New York and everywhere else in the country. It's simply untrue to make those parallels.